Maybe just before the Argonaut offense went back on, I had a chat with Ken Joyner, the Toronto wide receiver, who's been open all night long. In fact, just caught a pass 2 plays ago. And he was saying that the Riders have been going with man coverage 3 deep almost exclusively all night long. And as Condredge told us off the top of the show, that's exactly what the Argonauts had expected. So they've really been prepared for the kind of defense they're seeing tonight, which in part accounts for how well they're playing.
I think Kenny has just told us about a new defense. If they're
man 3 deep. It's a heck of a combination. You know what I like? Did you see the close-up of Conrich all the way down the field? He was calling over and inquiring about James Curry to see if he was okay, too. Not only Conrich hurt, but, well, here's the reaction. I think it's half and half.
I think it's more booze.
Do you?
I think it's kind of too bad, too, because the guy tried as hard as he could.
Sure.
And he was a good citizen and everything else, but they pay their money to see good football, and they didn't see it with JC, but here's that hit again.
Oh, that's some block.
Yep.
Boy, oh, boy. I think Conrich Holloway's all right. James Curry, on the other hand, I think he's got some knee problems.
All right, the pickup was only 3 yards. Let's see what J.C. Watts can do. He had no success at all against Edmonton on a 2nd and 7. His pass is caught by Mike Soroska for the first down inside the 30 to the 28. Darrell Hall made the hit, but a lovely pass, a good catch, and a big gain of 21 yards.
That was a great read by J.C. Watts' zone defense. He had Mike Soroska running down the seam and breaking to the outside. He threw the ball into an open area before he even broke, and Soroska makes a good hit, or a good catch, and takes a heck of a hit from Darrell Hall. That was a good throw by J.C. That's tough coming in cold.
First down, Argos inside the Ottawa 30. And JC is wrapped up by the middle linebacker, Henry Taylor, and dropped. For a loss of a couple, now we've got a penalty marker down. And we've also got some shoving going on. Chris Ziegler and number 66, Kelvin Prunster, having a little run.
No, it's Lloyd Lewis, number 76.
I was thinking to myself, why would Ziegler want to get involved with somebody?
We'd have to give him an IQ test to take on Kelvin Prunster. Kelvin's 6'6", 265. Lloyd Lewis, he fights with a lot of guys. So in the games I've seen, he's always pushing and fighting with somebody. So it's not surprising. Pick on Kelvin, he can handle himself.
There's James.
Well, I hope he's all right, because he's had a great game. Boy, he's bounced around a lot, but every team he's played for, he's played super.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. He started with BC, didn't he?
Yeah. Started with BC, went to Winnipeg, then to Toronto, and then to Montreal this year, and now to Ottawa.
Well, he's seen a lot of the Great White North.
Well, that's what Craig Ellis says. If you want to see Canada, join the Canadian Football League.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness, Ottawa, number 76, first down.
Well, as Leaf pointed out, it was Lloyd Lewis.
Well, we'll see if we can find out where this play originated, or where the little scrap started.
Yeah, nope. I think we just missed it, but I think it started right at the conclusion of that play. Craig Ellis. Ellis doesn't get much as he gets inside the 15. Well, you've got to think that if Ottawa has any shot at this football game, they've got to stop Toronto from scoring a touchdown right now. 3 minutes, 40 seconds left to play in the third quarter. Toronto 21, Ottawa 9. I would not want to be in an enclosed area with Joe Moss if he was mad at me.
No, he gets wild.
JC's pass intended for Pearson was just a little too far.
You know, I think that's partly due to the hamstring injury, too. He just needed to stretch that extra half step, and it's just not there. And sometimes you hold back just a touch when you know your leg's bothering you. And that's not a knock on Paul Pearson by any means, but he's got to stay healthy because they've got a receiver out, and they've got nobody left after him.
Paul's another little gutsy guy. You know, he's not a very big fellow, and he's taken his hits and everything else. He's also had an awful lot of injuries, and he tries to play through them. As Lance Chomick, the CFL's most accurate kicker with an unbelievable 91.3 percentage, comes on to try a 22-yarder. And it is good. Well, the Ottawa Rough Riders will not be happy, but at least they're still in the football game, trailing by 15 points, 24-9, with 2:55 left to play in this third quarter. And Ottawa, not having much success in returning kickoffs, has elected to take this at the 35.
Yeah, I think that's a good move.
Well, on Labor Day, right here on CTV, you'll see one of the real classics at a sold-out McMahon Stadium in Calgary. It'll be the Edmonton Eskimos. That'll be a great football game. That's one I just would not want to miss. Robert Reed, the ball carrier, is out over the 45 to the 47 before Cliff Hewitt brings him down.
The word from the Ottawa bench is that James Curry has an indeterminate injury to his knee, but he is gone for the game. They need x-rays on him, and Condredge Holloway is still very woozy, but they don't think he's hurt. He could be back.
Thank you, Dan. The Rough Riders begin from their 47 after that first down run. Burgess wanted to set up the screen, but got so much pressure. As Leaf said, you want those rushing defensive linemen to come barging through, but you'd like to hold them up for at least a portion of a count so that they're not in the quarterback's face the moment he drops back.
Well, a rule of thumb's about a 2 count as we see Condredge Holloway. I think he got that neck smacked a little bit when he stuck it in there, sure. But about a 2 count for those linemen, and then let them come. They're getting through far too easily. I'll tell you, Monday, I am scheduling my day around that 4 o'clock Eastern Standard start. Edmonton and Calgary. What a game that's going to be.
And the place will be hopping. Bob Vespasiani and his guys have done such an outstanding job in making Calgary one of the most exciting teams in the league. Penalty marker is down in the area where the pass was thrown. Now let's see what this is about.
A real square off between two bright young quarterbacks, Matt Dunnigan, Rick Johnson.
Boy, Rick Johnson and Matt Dunnigan, two of the most exciting players in the league. And let's not forget to say something about our old friend Tommy Clemens, who's having just an outstanding season.
Offensive star of the week last week. Had a great, outstanding game against these Ottawa Rough Riders last week. James Murphy, too, playing extremely well. 60-some catches already.
Whew. Ottawa's going to get a bit of a break here. They're going to pick up the first down into Toronto territory at the 52-yard line. Let's listen to the call.
Illegal block. Toronto number 17. First down.
Kerry Parker.
It's the second time he's been called for that tonight. I mean, they've really taken that talk that Dennis Meyer had with him to heart about jamming those receivers.
First down, Rough Riders in Toronto territory with 1:40 left in the quarter. They set the screen up. Carl Braisley almost picked that one off and bounced out of the hands of Clorindo Grilly. Now, how do you spell Clorindo? Because it's not a name that you hear every day. C-L-O-R-I-N-D-O. Clorindo Grilly had it pop out of his hands as Burgess was trying to set up the screen pass. Burgess has not completed a pass since coming into the ball game in relief of Todd Dillon. He is 0 for 4. And this time he goes deep, puts it up, and just beyond Brad Caleb. You know, Leaf, if he'd put a little more air under that ball and let him run underneath it, it would have been a major, major play.
I think you're right.
Just missed him by inches.
You know, if you're a receiver, it's a tough thing to do. You've got to keep those arms in till the last second and just then all of a sudden thrust them out at the end and dive for it. You know, the moment you take your arms and extend them, you lose a little running speed. It's a tough thing to do, though.
Well, here's that weird formation again, but Ottawa's going to try it. Oh, great catch by Mark Lewis. All over him was Carl Braisley, but he makes the catch, and he keeps Ottawa's drive alive, and he gives the Rough Riders possession inside the Toronto 30-yard line with exactly 1 minute left. Let's look. This was a third down play.
Well, how can you cover this any better? Look at Carl Braisley. In fact, it might even been a little bit of interference. No flag thrown, but what a catch by Mark Lewis, and these are the kind of plays you're going to have now if they want to get back into it.
If Mark Lewis had not made that catch and no flag had been thrown, they'd have been coming out of the stands.
Well, Joe Moss's blood pressure would have been right off the scale.
Burgess' pass is caught down around the 6-yard line.
Well,
Again, that's Mark Lewis.
One official's waving it off. I don't know if they're going to bring it back. Yes, they are. One official signaled catch. Now, he could not see the play perfectly. The other official that could see the play perfectly waved the catch off. I'm going to have a good look at it right here.
Boy, that's a great call by them, though, because I mean, who could have seen that other than our camera and an official right on the spot? Well, the Argos played that well. They invited him to throw. He couldn't find anybody open. They allowed him to run and then just converged on him after he picked up about 6 yards. Cliff Hewitt with the tackle.
That's maybe one of the toughest plays for a defensive back. When do I leave my man and come up and make a play on the quarterback? And he just did it perfectly.
Now the fans are not too happy. It is 3rd down, 3 yards to go. Rough Riders, the ball is at the Toronto 23-yard line. They've got to get just inside the 20. But apparently they are not going to go for it. They are going to go for the field goal try by Dean Dorsey. It'll come from the 30. And it is good. So on the final play of the 3rd quarter, Dean Dorsey comes through with his 4th field goal of the evening. The Toronto Argonauts have doubled the score on the Ottawa Rough Riders after 3 quarters. They lead it 24-12. We'll return with the 4th quarter in a moment. The kickoff is returned by Craig Ellis. And Ellis gets it up over the 40 to the 43. It was not a particularly long kickoff, as Dorsey and Ken Clark are now kicking and punting into the wind. And it's picking up in intensity. Let's take a look and see what has happened statistically after 3 quarters of play. Really, the Argos have not done a whole lot themselves. As you see, 206 yards. That's net yards, of course. Ottawa has turned the ball over 4 times. And on 3 of those occasions, it resulted directly in Argo touchdowns. With J.C. Watts at quarterback, the former Ottawa Rough Rider, and Oklahoma Sooner starts from his 43. Ooh, that one was very, very nearly picked off, too. It was intended for Chris Woods. It bounced out of his hands and hit the turf before Dennis Clay, the former Argonaut, number 14, was able to grab it.
Oh, and don't you think he'd like to have an interception tonight?
22,367 would probably have been very excited to see him do just that, too.
Yeah.
That's the attendance here tonight. 24-12. The Argos lead Ottawa. If you've just joined us, 14-3. Toronto at the end of the 1st quarter, 21-9 at halftime. J.C. Watts will not get it away. He's sacked back at the 33-yard line. Well, I suggested to you off the top of the show that the Argos were going to go as far as Conrad Holloway was going to take them. And with him out of the ball game, Argos have got a bit of a problem.
Wow, did Lloyd Lewis just blow through there. Whew. 8th sack of the ball game for the Ottawa defensive line.
Lloyd Lewis, of course, is number 76. Sacks against. Well, the Argos are 9th in the CFL. You can't get much lower than that, can you?
No. It's been a real problem for them this year.
This is Clarindo Grilli. And with a lot of hustle, he gets out over the 35 to the 38-yard line. And that's where the Ottawa Rough Riders are going to put it into play. Now, if the Argos give up a touchdown here to Ottawa, we've got ourselves a real ball game. It's 24-12.
You know, the Ottawa Rough Rider offensive coaches must be so frustrated tonight because they've had so many great scoring opportunities and just have not been able to come up with a touchdown yet. 4 field goals by Dean Dorsey, however, but boy, you've got to get that ball into the end zone at some point.
Excuse me, Leaf, the man with the hat on beside Joe Moss was Bob Swift, a former Toronto Argonaut who is here in Ottawa coaching their offensive line. Flag is thrown. We're going to have a holding call against number 53 of the Ottawa Rough Riders, Jerry Hornett, their offensive center, against number 70, Doug Mikolas. Mikolas was getting ready to hop on Burgess, and you'll hear the result from referee Jacques Picari.
Mikolas has done a pretty good job putting pressure on the quarterback tonight. He's playing. Gerald Bayless played there in his first game last week. Injured a hamstring, and now Mikolas gets to play.
Ottawa number 53, first down over.
Holding was the call. And as Leaf said, that really has been one of the major concerns for head coach Bob Obilovich. The lack of pressure from that front line, but he's getting it much better tonight. Burgess' pass is caught over the middle by number 26, and that's Clorindo Grilli. Don Moen was there to make the tackle for Toronto. Of course, Grilli in there replacing Leaf.
Mark Barus re-injured that hamstring in the second quarter. Mike Hudson was in to play for Mark Barus. He dropped the ball, so now they're going to give Clorindo Grilli a shot. We saw him a couple of weeks ago. He started the game, in fact, 2 weeks ago against the BC Lions. He's a graduate of York University, or actually McMaster. I'm sorry, not York, McMaster in Hamilton.
Second down, Ottawa, about 15 yards to go. And the handoff goes to Brad Caleb, number 23, which I don't imagine delights the Ottawa crowd too much, because on 2nd and 15, you would expect to see the ball in the air. Well, mind you, Ottawa's had such little success throwing the ball tonight.
It's almost like giving up running the ball on 2nd and 12. I don't like it, but I'm not calling the plays, thank God.
Chris Woods drops back. There is an Argo injury, and that's going to cause a bit of a delay. Don Moen is down on one knee, does not appear to be seriously injured. And this all comes with 12 minutes and 30 seconds left to play in the fourth quarter. 56 degrees, incidentally, is the temperature here at Lansdowne Park.
Feels colder than 56. Old Freddie's been doing his wind sprints tonight out there. He's had a fair bit of work, hasn't he? Trainers are special kind of guys, and Freddie falls into that category. Great sense of humor, good personality, and you know, when you have to deal with the personalities on a football club, it takes a special guy. Ray Jones is like that in Hamilton, too.
Ken Clark's punt is end over end and then bounces back towards Ottawa. They're trying to get away from it. Well, you see, this is exactly the thing that is going to drive everybody nuts. The flag is thrown. It was an obvious no yards penalty, but they were trying to get out of the way, and they instituted a rule suggesting that the flag wouldn't be thrown. We'll find out about it when we come back. It's Toronto 24, Ottawa 12, and we'll return in a moment.
The last time the Ottawa defense was on the field, Lloyd Lewis was able to get to J.C. Watts, and Lloyd says it's fun playing against J.C., except it reminds him of practice every day.
Well, J.C. is the man at the controls for the Toronto Argonauts after the injury by Conrad Holloway when he threw a cross-body block at James Curry. Argos start at their 45-yard line. The handoff goes to Craig Ellis, who dives his way to the 50 for a pickup of 5.
Incidentally, while we were away at commercial, there was no penalty on that last punting situation for the Ottawa Rough Riders. They threw the flag anticipating no yards, but it was number 13, Ken Clark, their kicker, who was in that 5-yard restraining zone. So no flag, no penalty.
11:35 left in the fourth quarter. Toronto 24, Ottawa 12. Argos with a 2nd and 5. And Watts' pass is complete to Ken Joyner, who has the first down in Ottawa territory at the 52-yard line. Chris Ziegler, number 38, and Calvin Lovall combined to bring him down.
Well, nothing fancy about this. Just go down about 6-7 yards. That's how far you need a first down. Here's Kenny Joyner. A good look at him. Calvin Lovall is giving him lots of room, and Chris Ziegler cannot slide out underneath that. It's an easy throw, easy catch, and a first down.
Another Ottawa injury, and this time it's Lloyd Lewis. They've already lost James Curry, and now Lewis will have to leave the playing field. Incidentally, Joyner, who made that last catch, has grabbed 5 tonight for 69 yards, so that's a good return to the lineup for him. Coming into that Ottawa defensive alignment is Marty Palisetti.
Well, they'll shift to a 3-4 structured defense now. 4 linebackers, 3 down linemen. Ron Engelson actually shifts out to be the defensive end.
On first down, the give is to Craig Ellis. And Ellis gets inside the 50 to about the 48-yard line. He'll have a pickup of 3 or 4.
Geez, there's been some pretty good hitting at the point of attack. There's some good helmet popping all the way up here in the booth tonight.
Well, there's no question that both defenses have played well.
Yeah, I think they have.
Ottawa's offense has really been something less than sensational. And the Argos hasn't been great, except they capitalized on the opportunities presented to them early in the ball game. So it's second down, about 7 yards to go. Flag is down, but JC isn't. The guy can really run. There's no question about that. And if it stands, he's inside the Ottawa 35 to about the 31. Darrell Hall finally made the stop. But I suspect it'll come back. We'll have a holding penalty.
Remember JC, and I think it was the 1981 Grey Cup in Montreal against Edmonton. I mean, he ran all over the field, had himself some kind of game.
There's another very controversial play in that game. You remember
Tony Gabriel and
Holding Toronto number 65. Second down over.
the defensive back involved was a guy named Hayes. Gary Hayes, was it? For Edmonton? Yeah, number 28.
Hayes,
yeah, I played against Gary Hayes. Drove me nuts. All he did was talk all game.
Well, I'll tell you, then there must have been a lot of conversation going on. Dan Peschnig was called for a holding.
He's in replacing Dave Kurtzinger, as a matter of fact, at that right guard spot.
JC's pass is picked out. Number 24 for the Ottawa Rough Riders is Darrell Hall. He gives Ottawa possession with 9:39 left to play in this fourth quarter.
Well, JC threw 9 of them before he left Ottawa. This is his 10th of 1986. And here's Chris Woods kind of just loafing down in an out pattern, but a ball that should not have been thrown was intercepted.
Toronto 24, Ottawa 12. Can the Rough Riders capitalize? We'll find out when we come back in a moment.
Calgary Stampeders fractured his hand in the third quarter, so that's why they've made the change to Dan Peschnig. But I had a nice chat with Dave before the ball game, and I said, Dave, quite frankly, why did you want out of Calgary? And he said, well, I was the rep there and the captain, and I had to do so many things. He said, I just felt like I was getting stale. I wanted to change of pace, just be one of the guys and play football, and he couldn't be happier to get to Toronto.
Well, the Ottawa fans are happy that Mark Lewis made that catch inside the Toronto 50 to the 48-yard line.
Bet you Mark wishes he had his feet.
Yeah, right. Carl Lewis, of course, the great sprinter. Mark Lewis, the Ottawa wide receiver and the son of the Lincoln Locomotive.
That's a good throw. Tom Burgess right in the hole. Lewis found the spot.
Well, if Ottawa can stick it in the end zone, we're going to have some kind of a finale here. This is right over the middle, intended for the young fellow, Clorindo Grilli, number 26. Joe's Wild felt there should have been a pass interference call, but no flag was thrown.
Paul Tripoli, number 28, the middle safety, providing the coverage. He comes over the top, and Clorindo Grilli can't hang on to the football. You know, there was a lot of talk a few weeks ago about the Toronto Argonauts secondary and all the changes, but they've been a pretty solid group here tonight. They made a couple of big mistakes against Edmonton last week, but so far tonight, the 5 of them done a very good job.
Argos 5-3 coming into the ball game. Flag is down. And Burgess is 2 inside the Toronto 45 at about the 43-yard line. Now, he'd be short of the first down by about 4 yards. But this one is likely coming back and will, because the penalty is against the Rough Riders.
Toronto's blitzed a little more tonight than they have in the last few games. And, of course, that means 90% of the time you play man-to-man. That time they did an excellent job, the whole secondary.
Well, the Argos, who play so much zone, don't really like to blitz anyway. They think it's a gambling-type defense, which, of course, it is. But sometimes it helps you get some pressure.
Yeah, well, they blitzed more tonight.
Yeah.
Ottawa number 19. Second down.
That's Robert Reed. Jacques doesn't get too excited. Jacques de Carey, the referee.
No.
We've got a second down situation. 20 yards to go, Ottawa. Time now starting to eat away at them. 8:12 left in the fourth quarter. Burgess is down inside the Ottawa 45, the 5th sack of the night. Marlon Jones, number 90. He's another one of Leo Cahill's recruits. He really likes him. His 2nd sack of the night, and there was never any doubt about this one.
Well, he's from Central State College, which is just outside Dayton, Ohio, and he was originally an outside linebacker in college, so you know he's got that extra quickness, and that's the kind of guy you want to have on a defensive end, who knows how to contain and the quickness to get around that tackle for the sacks.
It's Chris Woods, 85, the only man back for the Argos. This is a good punt by Ken Clark into the wind. Chris Woods at the 20. And that's his best return tonight as he gets it over the 30 to the 33-yard line. And that's where the Argos will put it into play when we return. Toronto 24, Ottawa 12. We've got 7:43 left to play. And Jones, he's had himself a big game tonight. And he's one of the reasons why the Argos are in front by 12 with 7:43 left to play in the fourth quarter. Argos have the football, and that's important because they'd like to run some time off the clock now. J.C. Watts is at quarterback. Condredge Holloway started and went until the 3rd quarter, and then was injured. Ellis fumbles the football. It's funny to see the defense.
Oh, yeah, they all start signaling.
Oh, yeah.
We've got it. We've got it. I thought he recovered his own fumble, but we'll have to wait and see.
It's Toronto ball. But every member of the Ottawa Rough Rider defense pointing it's our ball.
Well, they're wishing.
Yeah.
J.C. Watts has had a couple of weeks to learn and get ready the system. Looked like a pretty good handoff to me, but Craig Ellis just didn't take it properly, I guess.
Ends up picking up a couple of yards.
George Reed used to say he never wanted to watch the football being delivered to him by Ron Lancaster. He had his eyes on the hole all the time and never watched the football going into his hands.
2nd down, 8 yards to go. J.C. puts it up deep. And it's picked up. Another penalty marker is down. Ottawa's going to be called for pass interference.
I maybe disagree with you a little bit. Craig Ellis really yanked somebody there. Let's see how they call this. Well, the Argos are clapping their hands. Boy, I don't know. Well, you're right, Pat.
Well, one Ottawa defensive back was beaten on the play, and then the other came across to make the interception. Was it
Defensive pass interference. Ottawa number 24. First down.
Darrell Hall is called for the pass interference. Let's watch this.
Yeah, you're gonna watch Craig Ellis, though. He really jerks. He jerks number 14 Dennis Clay to get back in behind him. Well, I don't see the interference there myself.
No, let's just see.
Well, it's just not there.
Officials have had their problems here tonight. A couple of calls that you sure can question. J.C. Watt's pass was intended for Stephen Cox, and he just wasn't able to grab it. You know, in critical plays, too. I mean, that was an extremely important play from an Ottawa viewpoint.
Well, you're talking a lot of yardage right there.
And you're talking about Toronto hanging on to the football.
36 yards that penalty cost them.
J.C. has completed only 2 of 6.